I needed a ring on my finger, and Pantaleone Conti needed a wife who wouldn't ask questions. The contract was perfect. 365 days, non-consummated, non-emotional, with a clean exit strategy. He was wealthy, intimidating, and cold enough that I believed I could keep my distance. A paper marriage with a man who treated me like a business transaction. What could be safer than that? I was an idiot. The first sign should have been the penthouse with military-grade security, or the way grown men in expensive suits called him sir, with fear in their eyes, or the gun I glimpsed under his jacket when he thought I wasn't looking. But I was desperate, and desperation makes you blind to red flags the size of billboards. The truth hit me the night the restaurant exploded in gunfire. Pentalion threw himself over me, his body a shield, his blood hot against my skin. As my ears rang and glass rained down around us, he pressed his lips to my temple and whispered 5 words that shattered everything. "Still think I'm just your husband?" That's when I realized my cold, distant, temporary husband wasn't a businessman at all. He was the boss of the Conti Crime Family, and I wasn't his wife. I was his most protected possession. The contract clearly states this marriage is non-consummated, non-emotional, and expires in exactly 365 days. I said this to Pantaleone Conti on our wedding night, standing in his obscenely luxurious penthouse, trying to ignore how good he looked with his jacket off and his sleeves rolled up. I needed the rules clear. I needed the boundaries set. I needed to remember this was temporary. He looked at me with those dark, unreadable eyes and said, "Of course, Mrs. Conti, whatever the contract says." But the way he said my new name, possessive, final, like a brand, should have warned me. Nothing about Pantaleone Conti followed anyone's rules but his own. I thought I was marrying a successful businessman who needed a politically convenient wife. Someone respectable, wealthy, and distant enough that I could collect my inheritance, fulfill the marriage requirement in my father's will, and walk away clean after a year. I'd done my research: shipping magnate, corporate portfolios, charitable foundations, legitimate, safe, boring. I didn't know my temporary husband was worth hundreds of millions in assets I couldn't find on any legal balance sheet. I didn't know his security team were soldiers in a criminal empire. I didn't know that every gift, every protection, every cold dismissal was part of a calculated plan to keep me close while hiding the blood on his hands. And I definitely didn't know that he'd been watching me long before I ever signed that contract, that this marriage was never about convenience at all. It was a cage, a beautiful, luxurious, deadly cage. And by the time I realized what I'd walked into, it was too late. The bullets were already flying, my fake husband was bleeding, and the only thing standing between me and a rival mafia family's vendetta was the most dangerous man I'd ever met. The man who'd just asked me if I still thought he was just my husband. The lawyer slid the document across the mahogany table with a smile that made my skin crawl. "Sign here, Miss Sitz, and this unfortunate business with your inheritance can be resolved." I stared at the paper that would sign away everything my father left me. Behind him, 2 men in ill-fitting suits blocked the restaurant's only exit. My uncle had sent his dogs to collect. "I have 30 days according to the will. I don't need to sign anything tonight." Accidents happen to young women living alone. His smile widened. "Your father would want you to be reasonable." My fingers tightened around my water glass. The ice clinked against crystal, the only sound in our private dining room. I was trapped, and we both knew it. "Is there a problem here?" The voice cut through my panic like a blade, smooth, accented, carrying an authority that made the 2 bodyguards actually step back. I turned. The man standing in the doorway was devastating. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that suggested he was used to being obeyed. His suit probably cost more than my car, and his eyes, cold, dark, calculating, fixed on me with an intensity that stole my breath. "Who the hell are you?" the lawyer snarled. "Her husband." The stranger's hand extended toward me, his expression unreadable. "Shall we go, cara mia?" I should have questioned it, should have demanded explanations. But those men were between me and the door, and this beautiful stranger was offering me an exit. My hand found his before my brain caught up. His grip was firm, possessive, and warm. He pulled me to my feet with effortless strength. "Now wait, just a minute," the lawyer started. "Touch her again," the stranger said softly, "and you'll discover exactly how unpleasant I can make your life. Every investment, every pension fund, every asset your firm manages, I promise you it can all disappear." He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "Test me." The lawyer went pale. The bodyguards looked at each other uncertainly, and I let this dangerous stranger lead me out of the restaurant and into the night. His car was a black sedan with tinted windows and leather that probably cost more than my rent. I slid inside, my heart hammering. "Who are you?" "Pantaleone Conti." He closed the door and walked around to the driver's side with the fluid grace of a predator. "And you're Lisa Sitz, 26, sole heir to your father's estate, currently being squeezed by a greedy uncle and his pet lawyer." "How do you know?" "I know many things." He pulled into traffic with practiced ease, "including that you need a solution to your inheritance problem, quickly. And you just happened to be at that restaurant? I happen to have a business interest in ensuring you remain unharmed." His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "You need protection. I need a wife. Temporarily." I laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "You're insane." "I'm practical." He turned down a street lined with buildings that screamed old money. "Your father's will requires you to be married to claim your inheritance. You have 30 days. I'm offering you a solution. A marriage to a complete stranger. A contract marriage. Non-emotional, non-consummated, expires in exactly 1 year. You get your inheritance. I get—" He paused. "Let's call it social convenience. Why would you need? My reasons are my own." His tone left no room for argument. "The question is, Miss Sitz, do you want to go back to that restaurant, or do you want to sign a different contract?" The car pulled up in front of a building that looked like it housed royalty. A doorman actually stood at attention as we approached. I was out of options, out of time, out of choices. "Where do I sign?" Pantaleone Conti smiled, and I felt like I'd just made a deal with the devil himself. "Follow me, Mrs. Conti. Let's make this official." Pentaleon's penthouse office was all dark wood and leather, the kind of room where billion-dollar deals were made. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights, and every surface screamed power and money. He poured 2 glasses of amber liquid without asking if I wanted one. "Whiskey. You look like you need it." I did. My hands were still shaking from the restaurant. I took the glass and drank, the burn grounding me back to reality. A reality where I was apparently about to marry a stranger. "The contract is straightforward." He slid a thick document across his desk. 365 days. You'll live here, in the penthouse. We maintain the appearance of a legitimate marriage to satisfy your father's will and my business requirements. In exchange, you receive full legal protection and the resources to secure your inheritance. I scanned the pages. The language was clinical, precise. Non-consummated, non-emotional, separate sleeping arrangements. "Separate beds," he corrected. "Same room. If your uncle's lawyer investigates, everything must appear authentic." My head snapped up. That wasn't non-negotiable. His eyes were hard. "The marriage must be believable, Lisa. That means we share a bedroom. I assure you I can control myself. Can you?" Heat flooded my cheeks. "This is ridiculous. I don't even know you." "You know I have the power to make your uncle's harassment disappear. You know I can protect you. You know you're out of options." He leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed while I was spiraling. "What else do you need to know?" Why? Why would you do this? I told you, I need a wife for social convenience. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting tonight. He stood, moving to a small safe built into the wall. When he returned, he held a velvet box. This will make it official. The ring inside was stunning. A flawless diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum. It looked antique, precious, and far too real for a fake marriage. Family heirloom, he said, reading my expression. It needs to be worn. Might as well be by you. He took my hand before I could protest. His fingers were warm, calloused in a way that surprised me. What kind of businessman had calluses? The ring slid onto my finger perfectly, as if it had been made for me. Now sign. Here and here. He handed me a pen, his other hand still holding mine. I should have read every line. Should have called a lawyer. Should have done 1,000 things differently. But that ring on my finger felt like a lifeline, and I was drowning. I signed. Excellent! Pantaleone countered with his own signature, bold and decisive. As of this moment, you're under Conti protection. No one will touch you. Not your uncle, not his lawyer, not anyone. The way he said it, like a promise and a threat rolled into one, sent a shiver down my spine. When is the wedding? We'll visit the courthouse tomorrow. Small, private, legal. He poured himself another drink. Tonight, you'll stay here. Your belongings will be collected in the morning. Wait, tonight? I need to go home, pack, arrange. No. The word was final. You don't go anywhere without security now. I'll have your things brought here. Everything you need is already prepared. Prepared? How did you... I'm thorough, Kara. He moved closer, and I caught his scent. Expensive cologne, smoke, and something darker I couldn't name. Your room is ready. You'll find clothes in your size, toiletries, everything. My housekeeper is very efficient. You planned this. Before you even met me, you planned this. His smile was slight, dangerous. I always plan ahead. It's why I'm successful. Or why you're terrifying. Both can be true. He gestured toward the door. Come, let me show you your new home, Mrs. Conti. The name sounded wrong on his lips, wrong and possessive and far too permanent for a contract that expired in 365 days. I followed him anyway. What choice did I have? The penthouse was obscene. Marble floors, designer furniture, art that probably belonged in museums. He led me down a hallway to a massive bedroom with a view that stretched across the entire city. This is ours, he said simply. The bed was enormous, easily king-sized. But true to his word, I noticed a smaller daybed positioned near the window, clearly meant for one person. I'll take the daybed, he said. You take the bed. Fair? Nothing about this was fair, but I nodded. Good. The bathroom is through there. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer, though I promise you're safe from me. His eyes held mine. Get some rest. Tomorrow we make this official. He left me standing there, alone in a stranger's bedroom, wearing a stranger's ring, about to become a stranger's wife. I should have run. Instead, I locked myself in the bathroom and let myself finally fall apart. I woke to the smell of coffee and the disorienting realization that I wasn't in my apartment. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the bed beneath me felt like sleeping on a cloud. For one blissful moment, I forgot everything. Then I saw the ring on my finger. Pentalione stood in the doorway, already dressed in another immaculate suit, holding 2 cups. Good morning, Mrs. Conti. We have the courthouse appointment at 11. I need coffee before I can process getting married to you. His lips quirked, almost a smile. Already learning to negotiate. Good. He handed me a cup. Drink. Then get ready. Your clothes are in the closet. The closet was the size of my old bedroom, filled with designer dresses, shoes, and accessories. Everything in my size. Everything perfectly coordinated. It should have been thrilling. Instead, it felt like a very expensive cage. I chose a simple cream dress and tried not to think about how he'd known my exact measurements. The courthouse ceremony was brief and sterile. We signed papers, a board clerk pronounced us married, and just like that, Lisa Sitz ceased to exist. I was Mrs. Pantaleone Conti now, at least on paper. "Congratulations," the clerk said without enthusiasm. "You may kiss the bride if you'd like." Pantaleone's eyes met mine, a silent question. I gave the barest nod. We needed this to look real. His hand cupped my face with surprising gentleness, and when his lips touched mine, it was brief, controlled, and absolutely electric. My first kiss with my contract husband. I hated how much I wanted it to last longer. We were back in the sedan when my phone rang. My uncle's number. I'd been ignoring his calls for days, but now, with a marriage certificate in my purse, I answered. "Lisa, finally. We need to talk about your father's estate." "I'm married now, Uncle Robert. The will's requirements are satisfied. My lawyer will be contacting you about transferring the assets." Silence. Then, "Married? To whom?" "That's none of your concern. Goodbye." I ended the call, hands shaking with adrenaline. I'd never stood up to him before. It felt incredible. "Well done," Pantaleone murmured, "though he'll retaliate. They always do." "He can't touch me now. I'm legally married." "Legal protection is only as good as the people enforcing it." His jaw tightened. "But don't worry, I'll handle any problems that arise." The way he said "handle" made me nervous. I found out what he meant 3 days later. I was in the penthouse kitchen, attempting to make lunch and failing miserably, when Pantaleone appeared with his phone pressed to his ear. His expression was cold, lethal. Nothing like the controlled man I'd been living with. "I don't care what excuse he gives. The lawyer touched what's mine. Make him understand his mistake." He paused, listening. "No, I want him to remember this. A broken arm sends a clear message. Do it." He hung up and found me frozen by the counter, a knife in my hand, staring at him. "Lisa, what did you just order someone to do?" His expression smoothed instantly, that mask of civility sliding back into place. "Business. Nothing you need to worry about." "You told someone to break my uncle's lawyer's arm." "I told someone to ensure he never threatens you again." He moved closer, and I backed up against the counter. "He made calls, put pressure on your bank, your apartment building, tried to intimidate you even after our marriage. That's unacceptable." "So you're having him hurt?" "I'm having him reminded that you're under protection." "My protection." His hand covered mine on the knife handle. "You're shaking." "Because my husband just casually ordered someone to be maimed." "Your contract husband," he corrected softly, "who takes his obligations very seriously. No one touches what's mine, Lisa. Not your uncle, not his lawyer, not anyone. The sooner you understand that, the safer you'll be." He took the knife from my hand and set it down. His thumb brushed over my knuckles, almost tender. "I promise to protect you. That's what I'm doing." "By breaking bones?" "By sending a message. In my world, half measures get you killed." Something flickered in his eyes, something dark and ancient. "Would you prefer I let them continue harassing you?" "I'd prefer my husband wasn't casually ordering violence over lunch." "Then you married the wrong man." He released my hand and stepped back. "But you're married to me now, for 364 more days, so I suggest you get used to how I operate." He left me standing there, my hand still shaking, his ring heavy on my finger. What the hell had I gotten myself into? Pantaleone insisted I attend a charity gala with him. We need to be seen together, establish the marriage publicly. I wanted to refuse. 3 days had passed since the phone call, and I'd barely spoken to him. But the contract didn't give me the option to hide. The gala was held in a museum, all marble columns and priceless art. I wore a black dress that probably cost more than my car, another item that had mysteriously appeared in the closet. Pentaleone's hand never left the small of my back, possessive and warm through the thin fabric. "Smile," he murmured. "We're newlyweds, remember?" Hard to smile when I'm terrified of my own husband. His jaw tightened. "I've never hurt you. I never will." "You hurt other people. Only those who threaten what's mine." His fingers pressed slightly firmer against my spine. "There's a difference." Before I could respond, a woman in diamonds approached, her smile sharp. "Pantaleone, I heard rumors you'd married. How unexpected." "Maria." His tone cooled several degrees. "May I introduce my wife, Lisa? Lisa, this is Maria Castellano." Castellano. I'd heard that name somewhere before. News reports, maybe? "Charming," Maria said, her eyes dissecting me like I was something under glass. "I do hope you know what you've gotten yourself into, dear." She knows exactly what she needs to know. Pantaleone's voice carried an edge that made Maria's smile falter. "Of course. Congratulations on your marriage." She drifted away, but not before shooting me a look of what might have been pity. "Who is she?" "No one important." But his hand had moved to my waist, pulling me closer. "Stay near me tonight. Don't wander off." "Pantaleone, you're being paranoid." "I'm being careful. There's a difference." An hour later, I excused myself to the restroom. When I emerged, a man blocked my path. Mid-40s, expensive suit, smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Conti, we haven't been formally introduced. Vittorio Castellano." Castellano again. "I should get back to my husband." "Of course. I just wanted to say—" He stepped closer, and every instinct screamed danger. "It's interesting that Pantaleone Conti finally took a wife. After all these years, makes one wonder what changed." "I don't know what you mean." "No, I suppose you wouldn't." His eyes traveled over me slowly. "Pretty thing like you probably doesn't ask too many questions. That's wise. Questions can be dangerous in certain circles." A hand landed on the man's shoulder. Pantaleone, his face a mask of cold fury. "Castellano, you're in my wife's personal space." "Just introducing myself." Vittorio raised his hands in mock surrender, but his smile was poisonous. "Congratulations again. Do be careful with your new bride. Would be a shame if something happened to her." The threat was barely veiled. I watched Pantaleone's expression shift into something terrifying, a predator about to strike. "If you ever speak to my wife again," Pantaleone said softly, each word precise, "I will personally ensure you regret it. Are we clear?" Something passed between them, some unspoken understanding that made Vittorio's smile widen. "Crystal clear. Enjoy your evening." He walked away, and Pantaleone's hand found mine, gripping tight enough to hurt. "We're leaving." "Pantaleone, what was that about?" "Now, Lisa." In the car, his silence was suffocating. I watched his profile, the tension in his jaw, the white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel. When we pulled into the penthouse garage, he finally spoke. "You don't talk to Castellano. Ever. You don't look at him, acknowledge him. Nothing. Understood?" "Who is he?" "Someone dangerous." "And what are you?" The question burst out before I could stop it. What kind of businessman has enemies who make veiled threats at charity galas? He turned to face me, and in the dim garage lighting, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something dark and honest and utterly terrifying. The kind you shouldn't have married. He got out of the car, came around to my door, opened it with rigid courtesy. As he helped me out, his jacket shifted, and I saw it. A long, raised scar running from his wrist up his forearm, disappearing beneath his sleeve. Not a surgical scar. A violent one. My fingers touched it before I thought better of it. "What happened?" He pulled away. "Old business. Nothing you need to worry about." But I was worrying. God, I was drowning in worry. In the elevator, I couldn't stop staring at him, at the scar, at the hard line of his shoulders, at the barely controlled violence humming beneath his skin. You're not a businessman, are you? I run several successful companies. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. The elevator doors opened to the penthouse. Go to bed, Lisa. Forget about tonight. But I couldn't forget. As I lay in our too large bed, listening to him pace the living room, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd married someone dangerous. I just didn't know how dangerous yet. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vittorio Castellano's threatening smile, heard Pantaleone's cold voice ordering someone's arm broken, felt the raised scar tissue under my fingers. At 2 a.m., I gave up. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Pantaleone on his daybed, and padded into the hallway in my silk pajamas. The penthouse was eerily quiet, just the hum of the city below. Light spilled from beneath his office door. I should have gone back to bed, should have respected his privacy, should have remembered that curiosity about dangerous men led to dangerous answers. I pressed my ear to the door instead. Don't care about his excuses. Pantaleone's voice sharp and cold. The shipment was supposed to arrive Tuesday. It's Friday. Someone's stealing from me, and I want to know who. My breath caught. Shipment? Find out who talked to the Port Authority. When you do, bring them to the warehouse. I'll handle it personally. A pause. Yes, personally. I want everyone to remember what happens when you betray the Conti family. The Conti family, not company, family. And the Moretti situation? Another voice, male, rough. They're pushing into our territory. South Docks. The boys are getting restless. Let them push. We'll push back harder. Papers rustled. Double the guards on the casino. Triple them on the clubs. I want eyes everywhere. If Moretti even breathes near what's ours, I want to know about it. Casino? Clubs? What kind of legitimate business? And the girl? The rough voice again. The wife. She's a liability, boss. The Castellanos already made contact. The girl is mine. Anyone who touches her dies. Spread the word. Lisa Conti is under my personal protection, and anyone stupid enough to test that will learn exactly why I run this city. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp. Understood. What about Vittorio's threat? Vittorio's playing games. He wants to see if I'll flinch. I don't flinch. Pantaleone's voice dropped to something lethal. But send a message anyway. Torch one of his drug houses, the one on 5th Street. Make it look like an accident. Torch. Drug houses. This city. Oh, God. The door handle turned beneath my hand. I hadn't realized I'd been leaning against it. I stumbled backward as the door swung open, and there was Pantaleone, his jacket off, sleeves rolled up, a glass of whiskey in his hand. And behind him, sitting in a chair with blood seeping through his shirt, was a man I didn't recognize. His face was bruised, split lip, the kind of damage that came from fists and violence. Our eyes met. Pantaleone's expression shifted from surprise to resignation to something almost gentle. Lisa, you should be asleep. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at the bleeding man and the other figure in the shadows, built like a boxer, gun visible at his hip. I heard voices. My voice came out strangled. What is this? Go back to bed. What did you do to him? I pointed at the bleeding man whose eyes were wide with fear. Pentalion, what? He stole from me. I'm handling it. Handling it? Hysteria bubbled up in my throat. You're torturing him. I'm having a conversation. Pantaleone set down his glass with deliberate care. Mario, take our guest to the south location. Continue our discussion there. The boxer man hauled the bleeding man to his feet. As they passed me in the doorway, the injured man whimpered, Please, I didn't know. You knew. Pantaleone's voice was ice. You knew exactly what you were stealing and who you were stealing from. Now you'll learn what that costs. They disappeared down the hallway, a service elevator I'd never noticed before. The doors closed on the man's terrified face. I turned to Pantaleone, my whole body shaking. Who are you? He stepped closer and I backed up instinctively. Something flickered in his eyes, hurt maybe, or regret. I'm your husband. No, husbands don't. They don't have bleeding men in their offices. They don't torch buildings. They don't... My voice broke. What are you? He studied me for a long moment, warring with something internal. Finally he spoke, each word careful. I'm the man who's kept you safe. That's all you need to know. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He reached past me and closed the office door, blocking my view of the room where a man had been bleeding moments before. Go to bed, Lisa. Forget what you saw. Forget? You think I can just... Yes. His hands landed on my shoulders, firm but not painful. You can and you will. Because asking questions about things you saw in the middle of the night will only put you in danger. Do you understand? Tears burned my eyes. I want out of this contract. No, I didn't sign up for this, for whatever this is. You signed up for my protection. This is what protection looks like in my world. His thumb brushed my cheek, catching a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I know I'm scaring you, but I promise you, Kara, you're safer with me than you've ever been, even if you can't see it yet. I don't believe you. You will. He released me and stepped back. Now go to bed. We'll talk in the morning. But we both knew we wouldn't, because talking meant answers, and answers meant I'd have to face what I'd seen, that my contract husband wasn't a businessman. He was something far, far worse. I didn't sleep. I packed instead. By sunrise, my single suitcase was ready. I'd shower, change, and leave while Pantaleone was still asleep. Find a hotel. Call a lawyer. Figure out how to escape a contract with a man who had people beaten in his office. I was pulling on jeans when the bedroom door opened. Pantaleone stood there, still in last night's clothes, looking exhausted and dangerous. Where are you going? Anywhere that isn't here. No, you're not. He stepped inside and closed the door. Not loudly. The quiet click was somehow more intimidating. You can't keep me prisoner. I'm keeping you safe. He moved toward me and I backed up until I hit the window. Lisa, listen to me. Listen to you. You had a man bleeding in your office. You order people tortured, buildings burned. Yes, simple, honest, no excuses. I do. The confirmation somehow made it worse. Then let me go. I can't. His hand braced against the window beside my head, caging me in. Not touching, but close enough that I felt his heat. Do you know what Vittorio Castellano would do if I let you walk out that door unprotected? I don't care about he'd take you, use you to get to me, and what he'd do to you before he killed you. His jaw clenched. I won't let that happen. Because of the contract? Because you're mine. The words came out rough, raw. The moment you put on that ring, you became mine to protect. And I protect what's mine, Lisa. Always. I'm not a possession. In my world, you are. His other hand came up, framing my face. I know that terrifies you. I know you want to run, but I'm begging you, don't. Because the moment you're outside my protection, you're dead. Tears spilled over despite my attempts to stop them. I can't live like this, watching you hurt people, wondering what you really are. You want the truth? His forehead dropped to mine, and his voice went quiet. Fine. I'm Pantaleone Conti, boss of the Conti Crime Family. I run this city's underworld, the casinos, the docks, the clubs, everything your uncle's lawyer was probably into. I've killed men, ordered more killed, done things that would make you sick. My breath hitched. Hearing it stated so plainly was somehow worse than suspecting. But I have never, he continued, his thumb brushing away my tears, and will never hurt you. You're the one thing in my world that stays clean, untouched by what I do. That's why I married you, Lisa, to keep you that way. That doesn't make sense. If you wanted to protect me, you should have stayed away. I tried. His laugh was bitter. For 2 years, I watched you from a distance, made sure your father's enemies didn't touch you, kept your uncle's people at bay. But when I heard about the will, about them closing in, I knew watching wasn't enough anymore. You've been watching me for 2 years? Since the night your father died. His eyes met mine, and I saw something vulnerable beneath the violence. He asked me to. His last words were, "Protect my daughter." So I did, from the shadows until the shadows weren't enough. My mind reeled. My father knew you? Knew what you were? We had business together. He was a good man caught in bad circumstances. When he died... Pantaleone's hand slid into my hair, gentle despite the calluses. I promised him I'd keep you safe. That promise is why you're here, why you're wearing that ring, why I'll never let you go. This is insane. Yes. His lips brushed my forehead, feather-light. But it's the truth. And now you have a choice, Kara. You can accept that you're married to a monster who will kill anyone who threatens you. Or you can keep fighting me and put yourself in danger. That's not a choice. It's the only one I'm giving you. He pulled back enough to look at me, and I saw the raw honesty in his face. I'm not a good man, Lisa, but I'm your man. For the next 358 days at least. Let me keep you safe. His hand still cupped my face. His body still caged mine against the window. And despite everything, the blood, the violence, the terrible truth, I felt safer than I had in months. God help me. I was starting to trust the monster. I'm scared, I whispered. I know. His thumb traced my jaw. But fear is smart. It'll keep you careful, keep you alive. And after the year ends, something dark flickered in his eyes. We'll see if you still want to leave me then. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He stepped back, the moment shattering. When he answered, his voice was cold steel again. What? When? A pause. Lock down the penthouse. No one in or out. He hung up and grabbed his jacket. Stay here. Don't answer the door for anyone except me. What's happening? The Morettis just hit one of my warehouses. 3 of my men are dead. He checked something at his hip. A gun, I realized with a jolt. I need to handle this. Pantaleone. He kissed me. Hard, possessive, stealing my breath and my protests. When he pulled back, his eyes burned. That's for when I come back. So you remember who you belong to. Then he was gone, and I was alone with the truth I could no longer deny. I'd married the most dangerous man in the city, and I was falling for him. Pantaleone didn't come home that night, or the next morning. By noon, I was pacing the penthouse like a caged animal, his kiss still burning on my lips, his confession echoing in my head. I'm Pantaleone Conti, boss of the Conti Crime Family. The TV news showed footage of a warehouse fire on the docks. Authorities suspect gang violence. 3 dead, his men. Was he out there right now doing something equally violent in retaliation? My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Conti. A woman's voice, smooth and cultured. My name is Isabella Moretti. I believe we should meet. Every instinct screamed danger. I don't think... Your husband has something that belongs to my family. I'm willing to negotiate its return, unless you'd prefer the violence to continue. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. Pentalion keeps his little wife in the dark, doesn't he? Her voice dripped with false sympathy. Meet me for coffee. 1 hour. Russo's Cafe on 5th. Come alone and we can resolve this civilly. I can't leave. Pantaleone says a lot of things, but you're not his prisoner, are you? You're his wife. Act like it. 1 hour, Mrs. Conti. Don't disappoint me. She hung up. I stared at the phone, heart pounding. Pantaleone had said to stay in the penthouse, had said it wasn't safe, but he'd also said I wasn't his prisoner, and I needed answers he wouldn't give me. I grabbed my coat. The cafe was elegant, tucked into a quiet street. Isabella Moretti sat in the back corner, impossibly beautiful in a red dress, dark hair swept up, diamonds glittering at her throat. She smiled when she saw me. "Lisa, thank you for coming. Please sit." I sat across from her, every nerve on edge. "What do you want?" "Straight to business. I like that." She sipped her espresso. "Your husband took something from my brother, territory on the South Docks. It belonged to the Moretti family for 20 years. Pantaleone decided it was his. 3 of his men died for it. More will follow. I don't know anything about territory but you could convince him to return it. You're his wife, his weakness." Her eyes glittered. "Men like Pantaleone don't love easily, but when they do, it makes them vulnerable. He doesn't love me. It's a contract marriage." Her laugh was soft, knowing. "Oh, sweet girl. If it were just a contract, he wouldn't have killed the man who looked at you wrong at the charity gala." My blood went cold. "What? You didn't know? The man who approached you in the hallway. Vittorio's associate. They found him in the harbor 2 days ago. Throat slit." She leaned forward. "That's what your husband does to people who threaten what's his. Imagine what he'd do if someone actually hurt you." I couldn't breathe, couldn't process. That man was dead because he spoke to me? "So here's my offer," Isabella continued. "Convince Pantaleone to return our territory and the violence stops. No more dead men, no more warehouse fires. You get to keep your husband and we get what's ours. Everyone wins. And if I don't, then my brother will escalate. And escalation in our world means bodies, Mrs. Conti. Lots of them." Her smile never wavered, including, eventually, yours. Because the best way to hurt a man like Pantaleone is through the woman he loves. The cafe door burst open. 2 men in suits I recognized from the penthouse, Pantaleone's security. Behind them, Pentalion himself, his face a mask of cold fury. "Get away from my wife." Isabella stood, gracefully. "We were just having coffee. Girl talk." "You have 3 seconds to leave before I forget you're a woman." His hand went to his hip. The gun. 1. "No need for violence, Pantaleone. I made my offer. She can relay it to you." Isabella gathered her purse, pausing beside me. "Think about it, Lisa. How many deaths can you live with?" She swept past Pantaleone without fear, her bodyguards materializing from nearby tables to follow her out. The cafe emptied quickly after that, patrons sensing danger, getting clear. Pentalion stood over me, and I'd never seen him this angry. "What the hell were you thinking?" "She called. She said—" "I don't care what she said." He grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet. "I told you to stay in the penthouse. I told you it wasn't safe, and you walked out to meet with my enemy?" "I didn't know she was—" "Yes, you did. You knew exactly what this was, and you came anyway." He was shaking, with rage or fear. I couldn't tell. "Do you have any idea what could have happened if they'd taken you instead of talking?" I wanted answers. Answers that could have gotten you killed. His hands framed my face, forcing me to look at him. 3 of my men died protecting that territory. The Morettis don't negotiate, Lisa. They kill. And now they know exactly how to hurt me. "She said you killed a man. The one from the gala." His expression hardened. "Yes. Because he talked to me? Because he threatened you. There's a difference." His thumb traced my jaw. "In my world, threats are promises. I don't wait for promises to be kept." "How many people have you killed?" "Enough that I've lost count. No shame. No apology. And I'll kill more if it keeps you safe, starting with anyone who helped Isabella set up this meeting." He pulled out his phone, barking orders in Italian. I caught words like breach and traitor and example. "Pentalion, please. You're done having opinions about my security." He pocketed the phone and took my hand. "From now on, you have a guard. Everywhere you go, no arguments. You can't just—" "I can, and I am." He pulled me toward the exit. "You're too important to let your stubbornness get you killed." In the car, his hand stayed locked around mine. When we pulled into the penthouse garage, he finally spoke again. That man at the gala, the one Isabella mentioned. His voice was quiet. He wasn't just making conversation. He was casing you, looking for weaknesses, access points. I found his surveillance photos of you later that night, dozens of them. My stomach turned. What? So, yes, I killed him, and I'd do it again. He turned to face me. Every person who threatens you dies, Lisa. That's not a threat. It's a promise. And after today, after you put yourself in danger, his control cracked slightly. I need you to understand that you can't do this. Can't take risks with your safety. Because if something happens to you, there's no line I won't cross. No level of violence I won't sink to. You're scaring me again. Good. Stay scared. Stay careful. He kissed my forehead, lingering. Stay alive. But as we rode the elevator up, his hand still gripping mine, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't scared of him anymore. I was scared for him. The cold silence in the luxury safe house was a punishment worse than any shouting. I stood near the reinforced window, gazing at the distant lights of the city I desperately wished to return to. The safe, predictable one where I thought Pentalion was just a powerful, cold businessman. I won't sign another renewal, Pentalion. You know that. This contract is over. I held my breath, determined to clutch onto the last shred of my pre-mafia life. I'm leaving in the morning. We are done. He sat in the shadow of a colossal armchair, watching me with the stillness of a predator. His composure was absolute, even after I'd spent the last hour detailing every lie he'd lived. You think a piece of paper determines your reality, Lisa? His voice was low, laced with the steel I now knew belonged to the boss, not the board member. You think you can just walk away from my life? Crack, crack, crack. It wasn't just loud, it was deafening. The terrifying, explosive sound of a high-powered weapon tearing the world apart. The armored wall behind Pantaleone suddenly cratered inward, dust and plaster exploding into the air. I froze, my body completely seized by the primal, immediate horror of realizing that was the sound of a large-caliber weapon. Before the dust even settled, before the shock had fully registered in my mind, Pantaleone was already moving with the speed and lethal grace of a wild animal. "Down!" he bellowed, his voice a pure, non-negotiable command. He didn't push me. He was on me. His body, hard and solid, slammed me to the marble floor. He became a human shield, pressing me down, his weight heavy and protective. The air filled with the chaotic, relentless fire of automatic weapons tearing into the furniture. I heard a terrifying clang as a bullet hit the armor beneath his suit, and then a sickening, wet rip, followed by a raw, guttural Italian curse that vibrated through my ribs. My God, he took it. I was trapped beneath him, my senses overwhelmed by the metallic scent of gunpowder and the sudden, spreading, slick heat on my shoulder, where I was pressed against his suit. The return fire from his hidden security team was immediate and disciplined, drowning out the assassin's initial salvo. The attack was over almost as fast as it began. "Pantaleone!" I scrambled, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had just told him I hated him, and he had thrown his life away for mine. He lifted his head slightly, his features tight with something colder than pain, fury at the intrusion. Blood was already soaking the shoulder of his crisp white shirt, spreading quickly into the dark wool of his suit. He looked straight into my eyes, wide, startled, and utterly vulnerable, and the raw emotion there mirrored my own terror. He reached up, his large, trembling hand cupping my cheek. The man who lived by rules and logic was gone, replaced by pure, bleeding instinct. He pulled me closer, his lips hovering near my ear, violating every sterile clause of the contract. His voice was a strained whisper, ragged but terrifyingly resonant, shattering the illusion of the paper marriage forever. "Still think I'm just your husband?" The roar of the city traffic was muffled, replaced by the hushed movements of doctors and Pantaleone's trusted guards. I watched him from a chair placed carefully beside the bed in his private medical wing, a far cry from any legitimate hospital. His left shoulder was bandaged thickly, the sleeve of his luxurious dressing gown cut away. He looked pale, but the stillness was gone, replaced by a subtle, almost vulnerable exhaustion. "It's just a graze," he'd insisted, his voice rough. "You're fine. That's all that matters." He took a bullet for a paper marriage. The magnitude of it kept looping in my head, finally shattering my pragmatic resistance. The contract, the exit strategy, the clean break, they were all meaningless now. I leaned forward, running a shaky finger over his uninjured hand, which rested on the pristine white sheet. "Why?" I whispered. "Why risk everything for me? We had a contract." A slow smile, dangerously tender, curved the corner of his lips. "The contract was never for me, Tesoro. It was for you, to keep you close, under my protection, until I could deal with the immediate threats." "Threats I didn't even know existed," I countered, but the anger was diluted by a terrifying gratitude. He pulled my hand to his mouth, kissing my knuckles, a warm, possessive gesture that claimed ownership over my fear. "You think I want a piece of paper, Lisa? I want you. I want the woman who judges a man by his character, not his credentials. The one who told me she was done with me, even as she was trembling." His eyes, the cold, beautiful eyes of a mafia boss, held mine. "I love you. That's the truth no contract could ever define." I didn't run. I didn't flinch. I let the words sink into the barren landscape of my heart and take root. I loved him, too. I had loved the illusion of him, and now I knew I loved the reality. He must have seen the change in my eyes because the stern line of his mouth softened. He reached to the bedside table and produced an old, faded photograph. "There is one last secret," he admitted, his voice dropping low. "The real reason I found you." I took the photograph. It showed a slightly younger Pantaleone, maybe 18, standing on a pier, his arm around a teenage girl with bright, defiant eyes. Me. The photo was from over a decade ago, a trip I barely remembered. "I found you that summer," Pentalion explained. "You were running from a petty thief who'd snatched your bag. I got it back. You didn't recognize me then. I was just some older boy, some stranger with a dark look. But you thanked me. You smiled at me. And I swore then that no one would ever frighten you again. When your name came across my desk for this inheritance marriage scheme," he squeezed my hand. "It wasn't a coincidence, Lisa. I engineered the contract, every step of it. I've been waiting for you to be mine." The final lie was exposed. He wasn't just my husband. He was my guardian, my silent protector, my destiny. The fear of his mafia life suddenly felt small compared to the vastness of his commitment. A uniformed assistant stepped into the room, holding a neatly organized folder, the original divorce papers I had made him draft. Pentalion glanced at them. "What do you command, Capo Regime?" he asked me, using the Italian term, a subtle challenge and confirmation of my new status. I looked at the folder, then back at the formidable man in the bed, the wound in his shoulder a testament to his love. I reached out, took the papers, and without a word, slowly, deliberately began tearing them into tiny, irreparable pieces. "We don't need these," I said, my voice steady, my decision absolute. "I'm not going anywhere." As the shredded paper fluttered to the floor, I leaned in, kissing his lips, a true, passionate kiss, not bound by any document, but by blood and devotion. My paper marriage was finally over, transformed into an eternal alliance. I was the boss's wife now.